Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is X Factor number 9, and this is a sweet-ass cover from Mark Silvestri. Look at that. I love the composition here. This is so wild and exciting. Even though I don't like X Factor. Nah, I'm joking. I just don't really enjoy the first couple issues of X Factor. It's kind of silly, I guess. I haven't talked about X Factor on the channel, but essentially X Factor was a series that started up in the 80s. The guys who originally came up with the idea ended up, or writing and drawing it, ended up leaving the book after only a couple issues because it really wasn't working out too well. The originators of the idea, though, of really X Factor is, I believe, Kurt Busiek, Roger Stern, and Mr. John Byrne. And there's a lot of stories about the creation of X Factor. I mean, the long story short is a lot of guys were nostalgic for the old X-Men team. So, you know, Cyclops, Marvel Girl, aka Jean Grey, Beast, Angel, and Iceman, right? The original X-Men team from Stan Lee's day. But, you know, Jean Grey was dead, and Cyclops was married, and these other guys were all over the place. And they just kind of decide, well, you know what, we don't really care where it's going to happen. We're just going to figure out a way to make it happen and, you know, deal with it, right? And, you know, the fallout really of X Factor is, I think, for a lot of fans and people, Cyclops was never really looked at the same way. And we'll cover that later. But so X Factor for me, I don't like, you know, the implications of X Factor. That being said, X Factor, as written by Louise Simonson, Weezie, is pretty good. And this issue is a great example for it. So I've read like the first couple issues of X Factor, but I haven't read the issues leading up to this one. But this is a perfect example of the compressed storytelling style of the 1980s. I actually don't need to read the previous issues to understand, because these caption boxes perfectly catch me up to the issue at hand. What are mutants? What is this Freedom Force? Who are these people, etc. going on? And what's the premise right here? Great splash page, by the way. Really catches you and draws you in. One confusing aspect, though, is Mystique kind of transforms into Uncle Sam right here very randomly. And if you don't notice that, it's kind of confusing as you go through the panels. But anyway, Freedom Force is essentially the old Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and they're chasing these two, Rusty and Skids. Skids is a Morlock, and Rusty is a escaped mutant, and who was previously aided by X Factor in the previous issues, I should say. X Factor is essentially the old X-Men brought back, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go over that again, but they kind of act as mutant exterminators, even though the reality is they use it as a ruse to go help mutants out. It's kind of a weird sort of rip-off of Ghostbusters. It's weird. They eventually drop this and just, you know, get into their old X-Men suits and just keep firing off. So don't worry about that. But anyhow, they're chasing these two renegade mutants, Freedom Force, right? They're now, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants is now like government agents, you know, out to go capture mutants. X Factor gets sent over to capture all these mutants, even though the reality is they're going to try and save them. Weezie, so this is the first Louise Simonson book I've actually reviewed on my channel, and I kind of forgot, Louise Simonson is more dialogue heavy than her counterparts. That being said, she does use caption boxes when necessary and when it's important, and every once in a while she'll use thought balloons as well, but she's more of a dialogue driven writer, which is fine. She still doesn't like drop the other tools. But yeah, man, you got the X Factor. They're kind of talking amongst themselves, sort of conflicted about their role as this exterminator force. You got this mirror scene right here. So if you remember X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 210, Magneto was walking to the Hellfire Club. So this is the same scene as shown from X Factor's point of view. And it's funny, though, both Cyclops and Magneto kind of mirror each other. It's like, I can't believe it. Fully Professor Xavier saw this. So it's pretty great. Anyhow, these mutants get trapped. Freedom Force also kind of weirdly, it's the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but it also has the new Spider-Woman, which was like Wait, what? Why? Never quite understood that about Freedom Force. It was kind of like a weird addition why they put her in there. But anyway, they're about to corner them when all this rowdy group of humans who do not like mutants start throwing junk at the Freedom Force, and Mystique tries to kind of calm them down and tell them, hey, we're federal agents. We're now, I guess, the good guys because we work for the government. You know, that always helps out, doesn't it? And you know, the Freedom Force is kind of stuck as far as what to do, and X-Factor actually jumps in and stops them from throwing more stuff, and they end up kind of at an impasse here in terms of they're not able to really fight the Freedom Force / Evil Brotherhood of Mutants in this scene, so they kind of have to let them go. Meanwhile, Rusty and his girlfriend Skids kind of jump into the sewers to go join the Morlocks. And so what happens is, Mystique uses her federal agent authority to kind of get herself out of there and chase after Rusty, because they've kind of created a deal with the government. If they don't, capture mutants or basically cooperate with Valerie Cooper, this really freaking obnoxious bitch in the government, then they're gonna get freaking executed. So she's got to go into the sewers, and Destiny is kind of warning her, and Destiny being an empath, she can see into the future, that hey, I have no idea what the heck is going on in the future if we go into these sewers. I see a lot of death as a warning, right? And you get some back and forth between the press and X-Factor. We jump over to X-Factor's headquarters, where we run into this kid, Artie. He has the ability to flash images of things that are going on in other places out for people to see. Tries to convince this director to help him. Doesn't really help out, so he ends up deciding to take matters in his own hands. Draws a message for X-Factor and heads into the sewers to try to help out his friend Rusty. So he ends up there and he runs into Leech. Meanwhile, the X-Factor changes from their X-Factor clothing to their Freedom Fighters clothing. Like, oh, it's like, whatever. I'm sorry, it's really, X-Factor as a series is really good when Louise Simonson is writing it, but the whole Freedom Fighters Ghostbusters thing is really freaking stupid. That being said, this issue is a lot of fun. It's moving around all over the place. So we get reintroduced to Leech and Caliban down in the Morlocks. It's a fun explanation of both of their powers right here. Meanwhile, we get the result of the end of Uncanny X-Men 210, where what's her name? Oh man, I can't forget her name, but she was like Technicolor Girl got freaking killed by the Marauders. And Rusty and Skids get trapped in the sewers by Freedom Force. Rusty gets his face smashed in, and just when he's about ready to basically arrest him and bring him in, X-Factor shows up, or Freedom. We're just gonna call him X-Factor. Freedom for stupid freaking name. So they go in, and we get into a great fight scene right here. Really good. Here's the deal. This fight scene is really cool, but I gotta say, I can see why eventually Walt Simonson kind of jumped onto this, because Terry Shoemaker and Louise Simonson were not on the same page in a lot of the panels here. Luckily, both of them are still pretty good, that despite some of the discontinuities that are like, wait, what the heck is going on? And if you read through this issue, you'll see it, that things kind of jump around and you can't really see what or figure out what the heck is actually going on as you're going through. So Angel takes out Avalanche. Iceman is able to kind of get a stalemate with Pyro. Then Beast, not in his blue form, is able to knock out Pyro. Jean's able to drop the roof on the Blob. A bunch of other stuff goes on. Destiny basically tells Mystique, like, hey, heads up, I really see a lot of death in our future if we don't get the fuck out of this sewers, so can we bounce? So they end up doing it, and then Avalanche ends up stopping the rest of the X-Factor from chasing after them. And during this stage, Cyclops decides, hey, we got to split up. Rusty's really hurt and he's got to go see a doctor. So Jean, you take Rusty. Angel, you take his girlfriend. This is a really confusing panel. This kind of confused the hell out of me. What the heck was going on here? I think it was like I think what happened is that Weezie kind of looked at this panel and was like, this is kind of confusing, so I'll put some text to try to explain it. And then Cyclops, Beast, and Iceman stay in the sewers to deal with what's going on down here, because something is not right, because they're hearing screams and everything, and they're trying to find Artie, and the Morlocks are getting massacred, which we will find out in the next issue of Uncanny X-Men. Meanwhile, we set up for X-Men or X-Factor number 10 with this scene right here with Valerie, Valerie Cooper. God, I can't believe I forgot her name. Just like that, my brain is like off tonight. And she's basically ripping the Freedom Force a new butthole and said, if you screw up again, you're fired. Meanwhile, Mystique has another plan up her sleeve, and she's going to go target Angel, which will be very interesting in the next issue. So that's it. By the way, this is Mutant Massacre. If you are interested, these are the books that are coming up, minus one that nobody, for whatever reason, doesn't consider part of it, even though it technically is advertised as it. That is Uncanny X-Men 210, X-Factor number 9, Uncanny X-Men 211, X-Factor number 10, The New Mutants 46, The Mighty Thor 373, Power Pack 27, Uncanny X-Men 212, The Mighty Thor 374, X-Factor 11, and Uncanny X-Men 213. Ooh, man. Or you could just, look it up. There's a trade paperback of this whole event if you're interested. But yeah, X-Factor number 9. Even though I'm not really a big fan of what this series ultimately meant to certain characters and to the X-Men overall in the timeline, this was a very enjoyable issue to read from Weezie, and just another example of her great run on X-Factor. Anyhow, that's the video. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments about X-Factor number 9 or this review, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.